I've been telling my team, even telling myself, we are in the business that really require brain because everything that we do currently, we can learn from a lot of the international players. I mean, there is very big player that we can learn from. During the first few years, I mean, we can see the same now, but during the first few years, when we set up our team, there's not much innovation needed, to be honest. It's more like, how do we get this thing work? Do we believe in this micro mobility sharing in Singapore? If all we believe in, how do we get this thing work? How do we learn? So I need more trusted people and hardworking people.
Welcome to Brave. Learn from Southeast Asia's best tech leaders. Build the future, learn from our past, and stay human in between. No BS on success. I'm Jeremy Au, venture capitalist, serial founder, Harvard MBA, science fiction nerd, and dad of 2 daughters. Every week, we debate startup news, interview changemakers, answer listener questions, and share personal insights. Join our movement of over 40,000 members and get transcripts, resources, and community at www.bravesea.com. Stay well and stay brave. You don't want to miss Geeks on a Beach, the unique premier startup conference in the region. Join us from November 13th to 15, 2024 at J Park Island Resort in Mactan, Cebu. This event brings together tech enthusiasts, investors, and entrepreneurs for 3 days of workshops, talks, and networking. Register at geeksonabeach.com and use code BRAVEC for a 45% discount for the first 10 registrations and 35% off for the next ones.
Hi, Tay. Really excited to have you on the show.
Hi, good morning, Jeremy. Thank you for having me. I'm also very excited.
Obviously, we've seen your bikes around Singapore. And the reason why this conversation came about was because Shi Yan, who is a regular host, and I were kind of laughing about the recent news that Anywheel is like only surviving member, and you have never raised venture capital funding. And so we laughed because we're in venture capital. And so that's why we got curious about your story. But obviously, we'll get into how you did it and why you did it. But could you share a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Firstly, thank you for having me here. My name is Htay Aung. I'm the founder and CEO of Anywheel, the first and last mile company in Singapore and also in Thailand. So we are also happen to be the largest. Currently, we are the largest in Southeast Asia in terms of fleet size. And then, of course, that's thanks to our licensing with the LTA. So we are approved to operate 35,000 fleet size in Singapore, which itself is a national record, because before that, I didn't like how you are sharing that, you're laughing that we are only survivor. Because before we've survived, there was actually many company, I think close to 20 company or micro mobility company in Singapore. And then it get too messy. I think at the peak, there was like about 200 over 1,000 bike in Singapore. And then government start to regulate. I believe Singapore government introduced LTA, to be specific, introduced a first bike sharing license in the world to govern industry like us. And then from there, only 7 company was given license. And then fast track to today, only 2 company remain. In fact, a few months ago, there are still 3, but we took over another one. So there is only 2 company remain. And then even at the peak, mobile OFO were only given 25,000 license size. We were very lucky that in 2022, we broke the record to become 30,000. From 15,000, which is a big plus for us, because LTA could have given, due to all the negativity, and some Singapore resident might not have turned around the idea of bicycle sharing in positive image, right? So back in 2022, LTA could have given us just maybe 20,000 or 25,000 just to own par. But they have a strong confidence on us, and also we have proven that we are a very good operator. So they give us 30,000, which is the fleet size that we apply for. So it really give us a confidence boost. And then just May this year, we applied for increase of fleet size and we are given 5,000 more. So again, we break our record. So this is a bit of our fast track of our 7-year story to today.
Wow, incredible. So many questions I have, but let's go back to the beginning first, which is you went to Nanyang Polytechnic and then you went to University of Sydney. So what were you like as a student?
What I was like a student, I think a lot of up and down as a student, because to start with, I was born in Myanmar. I came to Singapore when I was 10 years old. So there was definitely a lot of cultural difference that I have to catch up. And then there is definitely a language barrier. My English was really terrible when I just came to Singapore. So there was a lot of first few years, my result is in Singapore very cui, and they're very, very terrible. And then I think I start to catch up with my language and also my culture. And then I did quite well in some part of the secondary school. And then I pretty much pick up tennis. So my Nanyang Poly, I used the DSA to go in, direct school admission using my tennis. But surprisingly, using my result, I could get in. So it kind of like the DSA work as an insurance. And then after that, I think towards the end of my poly, it just get a bit, I wouldn't say boring. Like, I feel that I have to go overseas to be more independent. So I went overseas for University of Sydney. And then that's where actually normal student, nothing fantastic to be honest. But I always wanted to have a business on my own because my parent is an entrepreneur himself. really hustle all the way from really not having a house until all the way to provide us to Singapore and also to Australia. So I respect that a lot. I respect the hustle a lot. And then it's always my dream to follow his footpath. And then hopefully one day I can do the same for him when he retires. Luckily, I did anyway, is on track on that. So yeah, and then the idea of Anywhere actually come from when I was in University of Sydney. Actually, my last semester. So I was stuck in traffic. So I've been driving in Singapore since I was like in poly days, and I also drive in Singapore when I just got to. Also, I also drive in Australia when I just got to Australia. But what I noticed in both of these cities is that every year as I drive more, when I come to Singapore for holiday during the uni days, the traffic got worse. In Australia, also traffic got worse. And then one day, I was stuck in the traffic in Sydney, Liverpool Street, just behind George Street, which is like the Orchard Road of Sydney. A road that used to take 7 minutes from the CBD to my house, it took 40 minutes. So I was stuck and really angry. And then bicycle kept riding past me. And that was in early 2017. I was like, hey, I could have just ride bicycle to the CBD instead of just stuck in the traffic or getting jammed. I mean, finding scenic parking is crazy expensive. 1 hour could go up to 30 Singapore dollars. So I was like, why am I not doing that? So I thought it could be a business opportunity, right? So what I did was I actually paused my study for 1 semester. I started Googling like Australia is like down under, is like very far away from everywhere. So I'm not even 2017, I'm not sure. I don't know existence of mobile or food already. So but I started doing Google. I was like, oh, interesting. There already such company exist in China. So I took a 3-month break, I think. So I went to China to play with, download about 200 over apps, pay deposit for almost all the company, and then play with the app for about 2 months, and then to learn about the industry lah. So it's a good thing. I mean, part of me was very sad that, okay, my idea is not fresh anymore. There is already a very strong company. But another good thing is I got to learn because there are so many already this company. So I learned it. And then after that, on my way back to Australia, which I passed through Singapore on purpose, it's a country that I grew up in, right? So I passed through Singapore on purpose, and then there was already O-Bike launch for about 1 month already. Like, disappointed a little bit, but disappointed in the sense that I'm not the first mover anymore. But Singapore was not my first consideration. Australia is my first consideration. So with that, I stayed for 1 more month, and then again I was there for 1 month mobile for launch. So just nice, whole 3 months, I think I get a glimpse of the China market, which is already very mature. With 200 over company, a glimpse of Singapore market, which already a 3 company, and they are coming in very huge. And then after that, I go back to Australia to register the company, start a company. But a few months later, I realized that, of course, I finished my university during those a few months too. But I realized that as I understand the business more, during then, the Australia city density, the population, and how don't really make sense for me to launch for the first country. So I still decided to come back to Singapore and start the Anywheel. So next month, September, we will be celebrating our 7th year of incorporation in Singapore.
Wow.
So that's kind of how is my university life lah, you know.
Yeah. And when you said that you're looking through the Singapore and the learning side, were you not discouraged or encouraged by these guys already? There's so many of them, and then they're already launching in Singapore. So wouldn't you be discouraged? How did you feel?
I mean, at first I was discouraged, but as their expansion grew, as someone that grew up in Singapore for like past 20 over years, I realized that the way that they launched their device without a license, they just deployed as many bicycle that they could financially, I think, to get a market share. I guess, and I kind of gamble a little bit that the authority here, which is either Ministry of Transport or Land Transport Authority, would definitely introduce some sort of restraint or license to actually control the fleet size. So I saw that as an opportunity, like they can continue to grow as quickly as they would like to in Singapore. One, its deployment is very easy, but it's the collecting back that would be a major headache. So I kind of bet on that. Also bet on my understanding of Singapore to start. Let me start slow. Let me like get a foothold. I'll get a foot into this industry first and use my local knowledge to understand the authority better. And at the same time, if my guess was right, which I'm very thankful that is right, licensing came and then it caused a major headache to a lot of the bigger you are, the more headache they get. So I kind of bet on that. But bet on the opportunity that I think let the big boys fight among each other. They will ignore us at the start. So we are kind of like shadowed by their competition, which is also cover us to really build our foundation well.
So when you started and moved back from Australia to Singapore, obviously now you're many months behind that of the Chinese players that are launching in Singapore, etc. So what was it like? How did you get your first bikes? Did you buy it? Did you borrow? How did you start your first few bikes? Your number one bicycle, I guess.
Oh, the one bicycle is a very painful process too, because during then those bicycle manufacturer, those factory, they are not interested in us at all. Because during the time we just go there like, we just want 500 bike, 1,000 bike. We are not even talking about one bike, 500 bike to 1,000 bike. Most of the factory don't even entertain us. Because during then the business from company like Mobile, Ofo, Obike, and those 200 over company from China, they are already in easily 5 digit or 6 digit or even 7 digit per month we are talking about. So we, like most of the factory that we thought, do not even entertain us. So I usually actually get the head of one of my China friends, the relationship to get us connected to Phonics, actually, Fenghuang Dangche. They are, I think, second biggest in China in the manufacturing capacity bicycle. So get us linked. And then that's how I get entertained. But for the first few months when I was doing it on my own, no factory bother about us. Firstly, most of them during then have not even heard about Singapore, or they don't have an impression of Singapore. Their impression of Singapore, oh, it's very clean country, a clean country, and a lot of greenery. But they have never been there. But one thing they know for sure, the market is too small for them to care at the moment. They were very busy with the already supplying bike for those China 200 over players. So yeah, so it was very tough. It took me almost half month to get one first bike from China to Singapore. Our very first bike.
How did you negotiate that first contract?
The first contract was like, I think firstly, I'm very thankful to have my friend that I met in Australia, which is connected to Phonics. So they give kind of like a very fair assessment of our company and also price, I would say, and also give a lot of value insight into how a bicycle sharing bike should be. So that was very helpful. Then yeah, then after that, after we confirm the specs, everything, I just say that let's please ship one sample to Singapore. But during then, it can't unassemble, So I didn't even know that I had to tell them to assemble or not assemble. So it can't unassemble. So during then, we don't even have an office. Anyone don't even have office yet. So I bring a bike to my house, assemble everything on my own. My wife was like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Assembling a bike." It took me 2 days to assemble the bike. So I just call the factory and do a lot of video call. Can you teach me? So they kind of lose patience a little bit. They was like, wow, why you got people so amateur like that? But really, really, that was the first bike experience. It took me 2 days to assemble. And then I think it was making too much noise. I even want to bring that down, enter my house to assemble. And all the neighbors were like, what are you doing? I was like, assembling the bike. Is it your company? And so during that, assembly, I already started to share the story, but all of them was like, Pastor, wait, that is really mobile, that is really awful, and you are just assembling a bike. What are we doing? So it was quite interesting experience with the first bike.
So it was assembling one bike, right? But obviously you can't do a bike sharing with just one bicycle, right? So how did you get that first 100 or first 10 bikes? How did you think about that first launch?
Right. So after the sample bikes arrived and I finished assembly using my own hand. I tested for a few days. Luckily, I did not fall down. My bicycle didn't break, lah. So that's a good sign. So I just gave a go ahead to our China supplier to say that we are ready for 1,000, lah. So immediately ship 1,000 over. And then during then, after the order is placed, we start looking for warehouses and then start building our team, lah.
So what was it like? You have 1,000 bicycles. Obviously, you need money because I don't know how much your bicycle was at that point of time. So how did you kind of approach that?
So firstly, I raised my fund from a family and friends for the first round. Also because I already used to work on, one big path that I missed. So I already kind of want to be very independent even during the body days. So I work during the body days too. Not sure you heard of New England Mail. Like the last time I have used to, everyone wear singlet and have different country one. So I used to wear it. They were the sole distributor of a Havana slipper. They are the first and so it's very big for them. So I used to work for that, and then I also worked as barista in Australia in Gloria Jeans. So yeah, and I also worked as tennis coach last time, even during my secondary school day and poly day. So I earned quite a bit from that. I think I was already earning close to 6 digit in the during my body days as a tennis coach. And then I have the habit of saving and working out. So yeah, I kind of for 1,000 bike with most of my money, most of my saving from all the work that I did during my poly and uni day, it kind of enough to fund the 1,000 bike. Of course, I still have to ask from my parent there. So yeah, they chip in a little bit just to secure because those are only enough a bike. 1,000 bike already costs about I think like 200,000, and then we still have to talk about officers. We don't even have that. We only have warehouse. We also have to talk about hiring of staff. So yeah, my parent come in for the very first pot of investment, and then after that, as company grow, I start to look for my friends, a close friend that want to be, because most of us graduate at the same time. All was looking for opportunity, and they also saw that as an opportunity. So I also get investment from some of the friends for the first capital.
Amazing. And then what's interesting is that you said there was 1,000 bikes. So then you have a warehouse, right? So I guess this time it came assembled. I don't think you had to, I guess it was already assembled this time around, but still it's a lot of space. So what was it like?
Oh, it was a headache because it comes assembled. But the thing is, during the time, right? I mean, I think I grew up in Singapore too long, Kiasu and Kiasia. So what I did was I don't dare to set up my own tech team. So our lock, right? Even though bike belong to us already, our lock, our backend, front end, which means is all outsourced. The company that we outsource all this from is quite legit. They are invested by a very big company in China in very big money. But the thing is, and they are also huge supplier of OFO and mobile. So in my mind, as a fresh grad, I thought that okay lah, this is already a very solid due diligence, very big, very good piece of information to determine that they are a legitimate company. But what I neglected due to my lack of experience, that they have never get out of China before. So the IoT and the system that might work in China might not work in Singapore. So this is the startup founder during then as a fresh grad, and something I feel to consider. My mind was like, they are the big supplier to all these big company. They should be super legit. And they are invested by big company. They should be super legit, but proven to be wrong. Firstly, after the buy is arrived, we tell the app cannot unlock. The IoT inside the chip inside is not compliable with Singapore, all the telecom
Wow.
company. So it couldn't unlock. That's one thing. And then our app also keep crashing. And then because we are only 1,000, and what I realized is such a big company, because they have big client, even though they took around, of course they want more customer, right? And also, of course, they want their overseas footprint. So for them, they just say, yeah, yeah, yes, yes. But after pay the money and then the bicycle in Singapore, we don't get the support that we needed. So it was a big headache. The bicycle, I'm glad that you asked, because we spent me and myself and my GM that drive me even until today. So my GM, in fact, my GM had the company code is number 1 and number 2 because he drive earlier than me to some extent. So even we sleep at the warehouse. We sleep at the warehouse during Chinese New Year. We sleep at the warehouse during Valentine's Day. So we even joke that we spend Valentine's Day together in the warehouse. And then we have a lot of part-timers sleeping with us to repair the bike, to dismantle the lock from the bike, unscrew everything, and then to plug in wire to hard reboot it because the app is not working to unlock it. So that was the first few months was really, really, really tough. So even today we have a joke. Anyone that want to become a management level of Anywheel have to sleep in the warehouse for a few days. The joke going around to really feel the hardness of myself, my GM, and some of the part-time have failed for the first 1,000 baht. So we couldn't launch the first 1,000 baht until I think 3 months in the warehouse, which is very, very painful.
And how did you find your early team, right?
So my GM is my secondary school good friend, and then I'm very happy. So I trust him with a lot of things since secondary school days, and I think that's why when I come back, I just nice to set up a company in Singapore. You need a local director, so he came in as a local director first, and after that I was like, hey, why don't you join me? He was a bit hesitant because it's a startup and he was working in. He had quite a good job in Lazada and the 3M. Before that, I think it was a 3M. Then after that, he was with Lazada for about 2 years. Very hesitant. I was like, I can help you part-time. But then after that, because I just covered, right, I don't even have employment pass. So after that, he decided to join and become the first employer of Anywheel. I became the second. So that's how the story is. So yeah, then after that, as we built more, so you'll start with he and me for almost 1 year, I think. Almost 1 year. And after that, we decided that we cannot tahan anymore. Two of us is really, we are stretching too much, but we at the same time try to save costs. We are stretching too much and we say we had to start to hire more. Then we started looking into all my friend contact, all his friend contact, those that we can be trusted. Mostly is his contact. So that's how it worked. But I also get a lot of questions like, isn't it like not very fair or not very smart to do that because you are getting friends? But my idea is that even today, I've been telling my team, everyone, right, 7 years in, I've been telling my team that, even telling myself, we are in the business that really require brain. I mean, not really the smart thing to talk about it now, because everything that we do currently, there we can learn from a lot of the international player. In China, there is 3 player, very big player, each have 20, 30 million bike that we can learn from. In other country, we have Line, which is already taken by Uber. We used to have a company like Bird that, we learn from. So it's during the first few years. I mean, we can't see the same now, but during the first few years, when we set up our team, there's not much innovation needed, to be honest. It's more like, how do we get this thing work? Do we believe in this micro mobility sharing in Singapore? If all we believe in, how do we get this thing work? How do we learn? So I need more trusted people and hardworking people than intelligent people. I mean, don't get me wrong, they are still intelligent. I mean, like people with a lot of information, right? So in the earlier thing, it's a lot of trust, and we get a lot of friends to come into the company. And I'm very happy that most of them is staying in our company until today, even as company grow. So that's how we start to build our first team, friendship and trust. And how working people.
So in the early days, you're totally right. Everybody was copying from each other and everybody was learning from each other. So what were the things that you deliberately copy, and what were the things that you learned that you cannot copy?
I think what I copy in terms of like the entire app, because we don't have to design anymore. So it's more like just changing the color theme. And then also what I realized I cannot copy is the operation and also the price. So let me separate that. So operation, I think firstly they will have a very strong backend to tell them that where are the bike, how is the ridership, where should they go and collect the bike to redeploy at what time. So this is something that we don't have. This backend we have to build, right? And our third-party supplier don't have such a mature backend. Even they have it, it's for China. It's not meant for a market like Singapore where MOM really care about the welfare of all our stuff, because their schedules are 24/7. And then it's really, their KPI is based on Popeye. So it's very, very tough KPI. That's something that we cannot implement in Singapore. Firstly, we don't have the backend to implement. During then, because our bicycle is at that time only purely Bluetooth. We don't even have a smart lock like now that each of our bike actually have a Singtel 4G SIM card. So we are one of Singtel biggest client with 35,000 SIM card paying every month. So now we are able to track everything, but during then we cannot track. So this is something that we cannot copy. So we have to kind of manually learn from our operation staff where to deploy, how to deploy, when to deploy, how many to deploy. So that was one thing that we feel that we cannot learn because we don't have the backend, we don't have the tech. So we have to make very, very manual. And then the price, because most of them are fighting price war to get market share, and they are backed by all this Alibaba, backed by all this Tencent, and we don't have such a papa to bet, right? So we quickly realized that we cannot go into price war. We have to start charging from the very start. So this is something that we do. And then we are also, not only for survival, but also mainly because we noticed that how long can you sustain? We are not here for a runaway, right? During then, we are not here to get a venture capital fund to really grow and just exit. We are not that. We from the very first day, we know that it's a long-term business that we want to do for a lifetime, hopefully. At least today, I would say fit in the fire. So this is something that we don't go into price. And the second thing that we quickly learn, and I'm very glad that all of the players in Singapore and across the world collect deposit. We, from day one, know that we don't want to collect deposit because due to actually, I did start Anywheel in Australia for a few months, and we collected deposit, but not using Anywheel company name. It's using this company called Murph. It's my very good friend company. So two of us very funny. We are very good friends for universities. And then one day, about to graduate, we tell each other we have a very good idea. So after that, we talk in a cafe and both come up with the same idea. We want to start bicycle sharing. So after that, I told him that, okay, let me just go back to Singapore. For Australia, I will just invest. I will just put the money inside, then let you run. So that we don't compromise each other as a good friend. So but during then that was already launched in Australia, and we quickly realized that we collect about 70 AUD Australian dollar per user to use the bike. We quickly realized that there are a lot of deposits sitting in our account. And then we quickly realized that because there are other shareholders, the shareholders are very tempted to use this money to go and buy more bikes. So they use the money that we don't have. So I quickly, as a minority shareholder, I cannot make a decision. I cannot have any veto right. So I quickly realized that it's very dangerous. It's very, very dangerous to do that. So when I set up Anywheel in Singapore, from day one, no deposit. So I think we are the only one definitely in Singapore, definitely regionally, can say that from day one, we don't take deposit. So this is something that we learn. We learn also, firstly, is to control ourselves, because with those type of money sitting inside, any human will be tempted to use it. So I don't even want to have the temptation. And even if I control it, if I start to have VC and shareholder involved, they will be tempted to use it too. So I don't want to have this money inside. So this is something that we learn at that. No deposit. And then from day one, we have to charge. And in fact, I'm very glad to share that from day one until now, our rate is still the same, more or less. More or less still the same.
Amazing. No, I think this is really helpful because a lot of people want to copy, but they have to figure out what to copy, what not to copy. How did you figure out the operation side? Because I think a lot of companies died from that, right? Because they didn't know where to put them, they didn't know where to pick them up. But also there's a lot of bicycles that get lost. A lot of bicycles got stolen as well. And then obviously it's raining all the time in Singapore as well, right? So it must be maintenance and everything. So can you talk to me about that operation side?
Sure. To start with, because the bicycle home we designed, we already know that it's gonna be for sharing. It's meant to be heavy usage and the different weather circumstances. And also, of course, because out in the public, there will be theft, but I will leave the theft part for later, the juicy part of it. So the bicycle is supposed to be already robust, but of course, due to our lack of experience from the start, due to my lack of experience from the start with all the supplier and then with all the parts, right? The bicycle stay rust, a bicycle stay spoiled for the first few batch. The good thing is that we are constantly involved here. So up to today, 7 years in, we already have 5 different batch of bike, 5 different generation. So with each batch, we take feedback, we note which is the part that's spoiled, even though we thought will not be spoiled. So up to today, I'm very happy to say that we already have our own another office in China that do all the procurement. We also control the production line of the factory. So now we source for 70% of our part of the bicycle, and then we just last time we just go to Phonics. Okay, you assemble everything else. We don't know the supply chain. We just pay you one time off. But today, fast track to today, we procure 70% of our part and then we ship it to the factory. So the factory basically only have us assemble. So what it does is we have a lot of quality control on our own, and then we also significantly bring the price down. We are more bargaining because the factory just become assembly line. We have a strong bargaining power over our supplier and also our assembly line. So this already improved, but what we didn't know is that we didn't consider, right, because our first market is Singapore, and Singapore is still our HQ today. We thought Singapore would not have a theft issue, being one of the most recognizable country and reputable country in the world, right? But unfortunately, most of our theft issue happened in Singapore. We were at our peak, right? At our peak in terms of the cities, we used to operate in Singapore, Malaysia, and Thailand. But now we are only in Singapore and Thailand. So when we first have our first board meeting, I think my board of directors were very against me going expanding outside of Singapore for the beginning of the Anywheel, right? they worry about the theft rate in other less developed country. And then after explaining to 3 countries, had my first board meeting, I reported that we have 3,000 bikes stolen. Because during then also just nice, we have smart lock ready that we can track where the bike is and have safe card inside. So we have a lot of data to track. And then I report the first board meeting, I said that we have 3,000 bikes stolen. And then I get scolded by all my board authorities. Told you not to go to other country. You just don't listen. Then I was like, sir, it's actually in Singapore, all these bikes. Thailand, 0 bikes stolen. Malaysia, 0 bikes stolen. They were like, your data, something wrong. Your backend wrong already. You have to double check your backend. I was like, no. We get it verified. We get it checked. It's Singapore. So I'm not blaming them because for someone that grew up in Singapore like me, I was also very shocked. So I was also very shocked. So we, of course, improve our bike. We improve our bike from there on. But again, there's a saying in Chinese say that 可以防君子，不可以防小人. So we can safeguard majority of a good citizen, a good resident, but we cannot safeguard a very small percentage, which every country have, be it how developed. And we also very clear that we don't want to, because of this very small percentage of the irresponsible users, affect the experience of 90% of very good users. So even though we make improvement in our bike to more anti-theft, but we also don't want to spoil the experience. So during COVID, it got worse because I think a lot of people have no job and a lot of people have nothing to do. So they start to stay on our bike. So if you look at one of our Facebook posts, very organic, we never boast about it. We have 300 over 1,000 impression and 5-digit like and a few thousand comments. We started to have our own enforcement team go around neighborhood to catch people that stole our bike without downloading our app or without using the app. So it instantly became quite a popular. I think all the news covered it, all the mothership, all the SCAT, I think all the small one all covered it. So from 3,000 across from now, I think it reduced to about only 1,000. So 3,000, 5,000, and then now it's about 1,000. But during then we only have 10,000 by that. So in terms of percentage, we are significantly bring it down. All these are true. And then also, honestly, not to blame them because even when we filed a police report during there, SPF, police officer, bicycle sharing stay around. And some of the people that we catch, they feel that because bicycle sharing is all gone. So these bikes are left unattended so they can use it. So for us, that's something that we learn also. So we don't blame them. So we really take all this feedback very seriously. We don't go straight down and say that, okay, you cannot steal it, it's your fault. We feel that there is a lot of things. We take feedback very seriously, and this is something that we can improve also. So I'm very glad that as our company grow, that was in 2021. As our company grow, more and more people start to know the existence of bicycle sharing. Stay in Singapore, more and more people are aware that Anywhere is a company that stays as it. So the theft rate, also with our ongoing enforcer, more and more, less and less theft rate in Singapore now. So it's very, very good news for us.
Amazing. So, what's interesting is that there was very competitive, right? So there was like so many of those existing players, and then more players started coming in as well over time. And a lot of them were VC funded. And then it was also crazy, right? Like you could park it anywhere. So people were getting angry. So then you said there was a licensing. So why did you win this competition from your perspective? Yeah.
I think firstly, what I share, I bet on the license, right? I bet the license will come, our regulation will come, and it come. And then how do we win? Is I think a lot of the company couldn't qualify for the first license because LTA license require the bicycle lock to be with GPS. That means you have to have a SIM card inside. Cannot be just use Bluetooth anymore, so that it can track exactly where is the bike, who use it, where it's being end up. So a lot of the company, OFO get their license cancelled because 100 over 1,000 of their bike in Singapore is all Bluetooth. There is no way that they're going to bring back the bike to change it, or they're going to bring a new batch of bike. It's very, very hard for a company to do that. And then mobile from the very start. So mobile is a company that I respect a lot. They are probably the only bicycle sharing winner in the world now. They were acquired by Meituan for, if I don't know, 2 point something billion US dollar. And then from the very start, they already ahead of the game. They are the one that first to launch all the smart lock with IoT, with all the thing, right? Obviously, they are not affected. So for us, we also, how do you prepare for that? So from day one, we also go for the IoT lock, even though we don't have the capacity at all. Even when we outsource it, we know it's more expensive, more complicated. From day one, we say that no Bluetooth lock. I want to have a smart lock that have a backend to track all the ridership, all the location, right? So this is a plus for us. So when the licensing comes, the bike on our road is already license compliance. And then a lot of people don't know that each of our bicycle, all the operator in Singapore, as long as you are licensed, our system is connected to LTA system. It have to be live. We have to report it every 30 minutes, if I don't know, every 30 minutes or 1 hour. We have to report live location to LTA backend. So all these consume a lot of technology and consume a lot of battery. So we kind of from day one already prepared for that. So when the licensing come, we wasn't hit very hard. So this also kind of differ us from many competition that just want to come in and then deploy as quickly as possible. So we really focus on what the regulator will regulate us and then how technology will be for a sustainable business.
How did you know Bluetooth lock versus smart IoT? Because you can know that the licenses will come one day, etc. But how did you know? Because that's, like you said, once they chose Bluetooth lock, they were locked in, right? Then they had to throw away the fleet once the regulation came. But how did you know? Or were you just lucky?
I think first what I share, mobile is really doing that from day one. They are already doing that from China. They are already doing it for Singapore. But but to start with, mobile have an elite team. Their management, 5 people, is super elite, very respectable 5 people. So from day one, their vision is ready. They come from, 4 of them come from car industry. Lee, Neo, the
Mm,
founder of Neo is actually a mobile, one of the
right.
shareholders. So they come from they already building car, right?
Yeah.
All self-driving and everything. So bicycle sharing, IoT is nothing for them. So I think that's how mobile have a very strong start. And then eventually the question is, we are a tech company. I mean, we are a T&T company, I would like to call it, tech and transport. So if we just have a Bluetooth lock that don't get any data, we are just a pure transport company. It's not sexy in the 21st
Mm.
century. It's not useful for us to grow. So from day one, we know that we are a tech. 50% of us is definitely tech company. So we want to, from day one, we want to have with or without a regulation, we want to have a smart lock IoT that give us data. So this is how we plan it. So not really how we know advance or how we know the regulation will come. It's not like that.
Yeah. And when you see the people sort of exit, right? Obviously, because like you said, some of them were spending their customer deposits and then went bankrupt, etc. So you had to start taking over fleet. Why did you make a decision to take over the fleet? Because sometimes they can be scrapped or whatever. How did you approach that acquisition process?
Right. So that is too much. Just now, I think you also mentioned about VC, right? So Annual actually
Yeah.
did talk to some VC during 2019. We actually did reach some agreement, some term with one of the VC, give us the valuation that we want, but we did not take the money because the way we want to spend the money is very different. So this particular VC, they want to spend a lot of the money that we raised to actually to acquire customer through advertisements. They want to boost up the app download in the shortest time possible. So I strongly disagree with that. Why I bring up this point is because many of the company fail because they take on VC money, they just throw the bicycle and they spend a lot of money acquiring customer with free ride. And then you can see their advertisement everywhere, getting celebrity in China or mobile for the celebrity they get is something that I can only jealous about. And then also they even have promotion like 5 million, which is 1 million Singapore dollar a month. Every day you can win 20 iPad, unlimited Apple Watch. So these are the kind of money that the VC that reached a term with me want me to spend in the fastest amount of the company. For me, I strongly disagree because it will kill the business. What if I acquire 1 million users through all these customer acquisition channel like YouTube or Instagram or Facebook or whatever, right? If my bicycle quality, if my backend, and if my bicycle is not there, they download the app, they don't see the bike, they won't use it. So I argue back to VC saying that this money, most of the money, I want to use in buying bicycle, improving the quality of the bicycle. I want people to see the bike every day, to see it's a responsible source and reliable, good, clean bicycle and download the app, not because they see an advertisement and go and download the app and don't see the bike. So this also set Anywheel very different from other companies that strongly depend on VC money. Sometimes I think the founder, they know what they are doing, but they just cannot control. They have to expand quickly to raise more funds because they are burning so much. For us, we don't use that approach. So we tried to raise money before, but we did not. But of course, next question that you might have is how do I get the money? I go and talk to my parents. I mean, that they have some property in Singapore. I might offend them. I told them that okay, you have a few sons. Some of the property is actually, I think it's for me lah. You're gonna eventually give it to me. Why don't you give it to me now? So I sold off those property in Singapore that is meant for myself or meant for my kid. So it's very tough. But yeah, so this kind of setup are very different from other company also. Not only we know Singapore market better, we also don't take a very painful decision not to take a VC money to really control our own destiny and our own timeline, which led us to today. And that's the first part of it. So second part is for SG Bike. I think you are talking about acquisition of SG Bike this year. I feel that as the biggest operator, we have to have the responsibility to take over. Because in their term and condition, I am not very sure that whether they will return the unused credit or not. In a term and condition, they shouldn't, they don't have to return in their term and condition because I already say it's pay and everything like that, right? They got it covered. But on me, I'm thinking that if they choose not to return, even they have the right not to return, it will cause another negative impression of bicycle sharing industry in Singapore and across the region. And we as the remaining player, the biggest player, cannot afford it. We've been spending the past 4 or 5 years doing our best to build up the reputation of the industry, not only us, of the industry, to gain the confidence back of the Singapore resident on bicycle sharing. We cannot afford to let another company that we cannot control to birth this thing that we built up. So I approached the founder of SG Bike, which is also a good friend of mine. We are competitive, but we also constantly checking with each other to say that is there a possibility that we taking over? So that what we did is we don't take over any fleet, we don't take over any liability. All we take over is their user. So all their credit that in the unused credit that in SG Bike now is transferred to Anywheel. Not only that, if they choose to opt in earlier to Anywheel platform, they get $10 more. So there is no reason that a user should complain because now they are using the same service in a bigger and better platform, and then at the same time they have more credit to use. So it's really to take over the takeover is really purely to maintain the reputation of this industry. It actually do us a lot more harm. We spend a lot of money to give the credit, even though we give a lot of credit to all their users, which is huge money. At the same time, we also worry the reputation risk because up to today, even some reporter misunderstood that we took over their fleet. Even some people misunderstood that those bicycles stay on the road today belong to Anywheel now because we take over. It's our responsibility to go clear. It's not. And also, we took on a lot of the reputational risk, but we still feel that it's a worthwhile, it's a responsible thing for us to do to make sure that reputation is not tarnished.
And could you share about a time that you have been brave?
So yeah, so this is the time. So because a few years already, so I can share. Our 2018 revenue, not profit, revenue for entire Anywheel is 5 Singapore dollars. And then our entire revenue in 2019 for Singapore, I think it's only, if I'm not wrong, 70,000, 5 digits. So it's either make or break already. It's either make or break in the sense that like my board of director, my investor, my friend, everyone that invested in me was like, maybe we should close it. We have given it a try, good try. But during then, all our backend, all our lock is still outsourced. And during then, 70% of our lock bicycle cannot be unlocked because the lock is not stable. The app is not stable. So I feel that I have not had fun with this company. I have not really operated this company before. And so that's one thing. Another thing is that during the time, because even though we have 10,000 bike on the road, 70% is not working, but we have the biggest license in Singapore during then. And then some of the because bicycle sharing then state 2019 is quite a topic that a lot of investor and VC is talking about in 2019 before it really burst. So I rejected VC and then I also rejected a buyout. So there was a 2 buyout offer that would give me 4 million net profit. In my mind, I'm just thinking, I was talking to my dad, I was like, should I sell? Because as a 30 years old, my first real venture, I walk away with 3-4 million net profit. I think I am successful if I did that. But something that my father asked me really made me change my decision is that if you don't sell, where do you think this company can grow? Do you think you have really reached your full potential with this company? Will you regret it one day? For me, I was like, yeah, I have 10,000 bikes, 7,000 of them not working. You know, I'm selling, I have this type of money to sell is because purely because of my license side, not because of my fleet and everything. So if I sell it, I would be like, I wouldn't be proud. Even I walk away with 4 million Singapore dollar, I wouldn't be proud in the sense that I have done nothing with this company. I only learned failure. Fast forward, I only learned failure. So I think I was brave enough to reject 4 million net profit. I was brave enough to reject VC and go to my parent and offended them, saying that they are still very, very, very healthy. You're gonna pass it to me eventually. Why not do it now? Then after that, I'm very thankful that they give me those properties. They're supposed to pass to me 30 years, maybe 30, 40 years down the road. And then I sold it. I sold those property in a few months and then pump all the money into Anywheel. So I think that was really brave because during that I already have my first kid. I already married, have my first kid. And then my wife also have a lot of concern. You know, maybe you can walk away 4 million, you did not. You can take BC money, you did not. You already have a few property that will be under you if you don't go and screw up and then just start something that. So a lot of question mark. Even I thought myself for a few months, but yeah, still decided to do it. So I thought that was quite brave. And then all the way until now, I'm very thankful that I made the decision. Still not enough to buy back those property, but I think the direction is there for us to. We hit our first operationally profitable last year, and then this year Q2 has over. We just closed our Q2. Q2 this year compared to last year, same Q2, we are about 30% up in terms of revenue and in terms of revenue, user and ridership. So the company is not slowing down yet. This is something that I'm very thankful that I took that decision rather than took the 4 million and rather than took the 4 million net profit after minusing all the money that I invested. And then also a decision to continue to pump more money into this company.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing. So on that note, I would love to summarize the 3 big takeaways I got from this conversation. First of all, thank you so much for sharing about your early inspiration about setting up Anywheel when you were a student that moved to Singapore and taking the opportunity to study in Australia, going to China to see what to do, what not to do. Really inspiring to hear about how you eventually went off to get your first bike even, right? Secondly, thanks so much for sharing about what your process was for launching and growing a company. So the mistakes you made in terms of ordering a bike that's unassembled to ordering your first 1,000 bikes, but the lock doesn't work. So you had to change it. So I think it was great to hear the mistakes, but I think it was really fascinating, especially the part where you're talking about what are the things to copy and what are the things not to copy in terms of the operations, in terms of the price point, in terms of deposits. So a lot of learning there. Lastly, thanks so much for sharing about, I think, the tough times, especially around capital and decision points, right? So you mentioned about the early days you could fundraise from friends and family, but then you said there were multiple points you could decide to sell, cash out, because the company was not doing well, all the way to turning down VC money, turning down buyer offers, putting more money of your own into work, even using that money to also then go acquire another player. So really fascinating to hear that journey. And thank you so much for sharing.
No, thank you. Thank you, Jeremy, for giving me this platform to share Anywheel's story.
Thank you for listening to Brave. If you enjoyed this episode, please share the podcast with your friends and colleagues. We would also appreciate you leaving a rating or review. Head over to www.bravesea.com for member content, resources, and community. Stay well and stay brave.